Welcome to the Redlands Camera Club Summer 2024 digital competition. I'm Carl Detro, the competition chair. Our scorekeepers tonight are Russ Trezera, Bruce Herwig, and Judith Sparhawk. We've got 48 images entered this evening from 26 member photographers. Our judges this evening are Bob Fletcher, Nancy Gall, and Ralph Nordstrom. Nancy Gall has been an assistant professor of photography at the Riverside Community College for many years and is now retired. She's been rated by her classes as awesome, great by a majority of her students. We learned just last week that in her retirement, Nancy continues to volunteer with animal rescue groups. In fact, when I called her to ask her to do this, she was in the process of delivering a dog. So thank you very much, Nancy, for your volunteer efforts there and here. Next, we have Bob Fletcher. Bob's well known to our club as a judge, a presenter, and a host of several photographic workshops. He's been photographing professionally since 1970, and he's photographed over 3,000 weddings. These days, he spends most of his time working for Canon USA, teaching and leading photo workshops. Welcome back, Bob. Ralph Nordstrom previously lived in our area in Southern California, and he was honored as a judge several times in the past. He recently moved to Colorado, but continues his work as a professional photographer and author. Ralph has been leading photography workshops in the West for over 15 years, and the Redwoods National and State Parks have been one of his favorite destinations. And I understand, Ralph, you just returned from there.
Just did.
Ralph has also taught photography classes for Joshua Tree National Park Institute. His approach to landscape photography is to share the feelings he experiences in the field through his photographs. Welcome back, Ralph. For our scorekeepers, we'll call Nancy judge number 1, Bob will be judge number 2, and Ralph will be judge number 3.
Thank you.
Our competition categories are people, places, and animals, and close-up, photojournalism, open miscellaneous, and then we have a special category, sometimes called Category X. Category X for this competition is Twilight. That's not it. There we go. Our scoring system is fairly simple. It's used by PPA. An exceptional image gets a score between 95 and 99. Outstanding gets a 90 to a 94. Excellent, 85 to 89. If it's above average, it's 80 to 84. If it's average, 75 to 79. And if it's below 75, it's below average. We present ribbons for the best images in each of our categories or our classes of apprentice, intermediate, and advanced. And the advanced image, right, the best image in all of them will get best of show. This is a image we have here just for the judges to take a look at it and make sure that your monitors are calibrated properly. So this is a nationally used calibration image. So if it looks good, judges, give me a nod, please. Thanks. Well, actually, a verbal nod. I can't see the judges.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Nancy.
Yes, it's good.
Okay. Thank you. We'll average the individual scores on each of these, and we'll announce the average. So if you have an average score of 82.7, that'll be announced as an 83. Scores to multiple decimal places will be used to determine who gets first, second, third, and honorable mention ribbons. And for our recorders, just a reminder, make sure that you've got all of the scores before you go on. We go on to the next one, just ask me to hold and I'll hold up. There will be a 5-minute break somewhere in the middle. After about half of them will be done. And as is our tradition, we'll go a quick walkthrough of all the images.
Well, they really did start right away. Okay.
Okay, and so all of our members who are here just observing, be sure to mute yourself. So we'll get commentary from the judges and not have anybody talk over us. Okay. We will start the competition with our first entry from the photojournalism category, African Queen. African Queen. Yeah.
We've got a problem here.
You don't think, Nancy, can you please resend your score?
I can.
I think you added a 1 in front of it.
I did because I'm judge number one.
Ah.
No, we don't need that. Okay, thank you,
Yep.
Judith.
Yeah. They just bumped up 100 scores.
Oh, good. There we go.
Average of 79.
79. And Nancy, you'll get to make the first comment.
Already a very nice use of shallow depth of field. I like that we've got some, even though her face is generally in shadow, that we have some light bouncing off of something nearby, brightening up her eyes and giving her some detail and doing well with her teeth. And I enjoyed this, and my score was an 80.
Okay, thank you, Nancy. The next image is in the animal category. Green-winged teal. Green-winged teal.
Average of 83.
83. Bob.
I scored this an 82. I like the image. It's sharp, it's colorful. A couple of things that kept me from wanting to score higher is I feel it's tight. I wish that the maker had backed off just a little bit and I could have seen more of the reflection. But everything else looks very good on it. I like the image.
Thank you, Bob. Next image is Ruins Under the Stars. Ruins Under the Stars.
Score is 79.
79. Ralph.
Yeah, I scored it a 78. Looking at that, it seems like it could be more dramatic, and that's really just the tonalities of the image, as much as the composition or anything like that. But I liked it. I liked the idea, the concept, the stars, but I thought it could just be a little bit stronger. So I gave it a 78.
Thank you, Ralph. In the people category, we have Polly Ball. Polly Ball.
Score of 80.
80. Nancy.
It's a good, solid team photo. Good use of camera on tripod and artificial light source. I'm wishing that there was a way to have blurred the background behind the team just a little bit, but you know, a good, solid, get the job done kind of an image.
Okay, thank you. Next.
Wait a minute, I made an error here.
Okay.
It's, there we go.
Okay, all set, Judith?
Yes,
Okay, thank you. Next image is in the Twilight category. Camino. Camino.
Score of 76.
A 76. Bob, this is yours.
I scored this a 75. I think the whole idea is interesting. But for me, the biggest problem is there's nothing in focus. Everything is soft, and obviously it's a bit of a time exposure. So either it was just handheld. If it had been mounted on a tripod, I think that might have helped, or mounted on a harder surface. But the concept is good, but the execution of it tends to fail.
Okay, thanks, Bob. Next image. When you've got an itch. When you've got an itch.
Score of 81.
81, Ralph.
Yeah, I gave it an 85. I like the background a lot, the warm colored background, and then the bird and reaching up to scratch his cheek apparently. I thought that there was I like the composition there also. There is a softness issue with this one, but I gave it an 85.
Okay, the next one is Jackson Chameleon. This is in the animal category. Jackson chameleon.
Score of 86.
86. Nancy.
My score was an 86. There are so many things that are right about this lovely image. The important part is that the point of focus is exactly where it should be, which is on that eye. And I don't mean to be beating depth of field up tonight, but I wish that it was a slightly deeper depth of field, because I would like to have seen a greater sharpness in both of the legs that are facing the camera. But brilliant colors, wonderful catch. I thought this has so much to excite the viewer.
Thank you, Nancy. The next image is in the twilight category. Clonalus cassellarea. Clonalus cassellarea. And I'm hoping my pronunciation is correct.
Score of 81.
81. This one goes to Bob.
I scored this an 83. I liked the image. I wanted to score it higher, but I wish the sky had been maybe pushed a little bit in contrast. The balance of it is very nice. The short trees on the bottom tend to balance it from the trees on the right. The competition appealed to me. I think there's room for improvement, but overall I liked it.
Thank you, Bob. The next image is in the animal category. Chicks at an open bar. Chicks at an open bar.
Score of 80.
80, Ralph.
Yeah, there are some technical things that could be improved in this photograph. There's some blurs and things like that, but I just like the overall concept of what it displayed, and it's kind of funny, so I gave it an 82. So I kind of overlooked anything technical improvements that could have been done and just focused on what the image was conveying.
Okay, thank you, Ralph. The next image is in the twilight category. Last light on the mountains. Last light on the mountains.
Score of 81.
81 goes to Nancy.
I scored this 84, which I realize is a little high, but there are so many things that I like about this. One of them is that it could easily have blown out a couple of different areas of the image. And the maker managed to get a lovely balance between a brilliance in the sky and yet detail down in the valley. And both are very pleasing. And then, of course, catching it at exactly the right time of day to put highlights along the peaks of the mountains was a great thing to do. And overall, I found this very pleasing.
Thank you, Nancy. The next is in the animal category. Gray greatness in white. Gray greatness in white.
Greatness,
Gray greatness in white.
greatness.
Score of 83.
83. Bob.
I scored this an 84. I really like the image. I wish there had been a little more contrast on the tree and the bird, but I loved the shallow depth of field. The snow falling behind it is out of focus. The broken branch up above where the snow is broken, it balances well. The composition of it just appeals to me, so I scored this an 84.
Okay, thank you, Bob. Next image is in the people category. Ready to rumble. Ready to rumble.
Score of 82.
82. Ralph.
Well, I was impressed with this photograph, and it could be seen as pretty plain, but to me, it tells a really strong story of these law enforcement people on horseback getting ready to do their job. I like the tonality of the overall image. I like the colors. I even noticed that there are three, an odd number of trees with autumn colors, which also I liked. It worked in there. But it's mostly the moment that really captured my interest. And they who knows what they're getting into, but it's a moment that's kind of kind of difficult. So I I obviously like this one a lot. So it's 85.
Okay, thank you, Ralph. The next image is in the places category. Natural arch and waterfalls. Natural arch and waterfalls.
Score of 83.
83, and Nancy, this is yours.
My score on this was 85. There are a number of things that I think make this a superior image. Immediately, we're looking at the slow shutter speed, which is giving us that sense of motion in the water, the low point of view, which gives us the width of all of the mountains and the waterfalls in the background, and yet brings that rock in the foreground to give us a sense of scale in the background. In addition to which, I'm loving the capture of the opposing colors on the sorry about that, coming up with the right word for it. If we're looking at the color scale, we've essentially got red orange against a blue green, and those are lovely contrasting colors that capture the viewer's emotion.
Thank you, Nancy. In the close-up category, she found her pot of gold. She found her pot of gold.
Score of 81.
81. Bob.
I really like this image. I scored it 88. I like the depth of field. I love the colors. I wish that the leaf in front, or the petal in front, was a little more in focus, but it's also part of that shallow depth of field. The title made me feel, it sort of explained it to me. But as soon as I saw this image, I absolutely loved it. I think it is well deserving of a high score.
Okay, Bob, it's not within the criteria of an automatic challenge, but do you wish to challenge?
I don't.
Okay. Score is 81. Next image is in the Twilight category. Twilight, Redondo Beach Pier. Twilight, Redondo Beach Pier.
Score of 85.
85 to Ralph.
I scored it in 86. This is in Nautical Twilight, which is well, I think at this phase of Nautical Twilight, this is my absolute best on this, my absolute favorite. I like the intense orange sky at the horizon. The subject matter is kind of plain, but I like the mood that this creates. There's this mood of peace and quiet that often goes with Nautical Twilight. So I give it an 86.
Okay, thank you, Ralph. In the Twilight category, we have Naranja. Naranja.
Score of 85.
85. Nancy,
My score was 85. I really like the silhouette, and I like the detail in the silhouette. So many people um, get them with the people with their heads turned in such a way that you don't see the profile, and yet we see a very clear profile and even an expression with an open mouth here, which I quite like, without the blur that usually goes with an open mouth. So I think that's great. I love the rule of thirds here. I love the intensity of the late afternoon light. I almost knocked it down a little bit for the darkness in the sky in the upper left, and I thought, actually, that's quite a nice balance for the hard darkness of the person and then the semi-darkness of the sky. So I really quite liked this.
thank you, Nancy. The next image is in the people category. Egyptian feather. Egyptian feather.
Score of 83.
83. Bob,
I scored this an 86. I wanted to score it a 90. I love the colors. I love the balance. The fact that the walls and the columns are straight up and down is appealing. The fact that everything other than the subject is slightly out of focus, the expression, the thing that kept me from scoring it higher was that the hands were cut off, the fingers, and either I would have dropped so you could see the complete hand or cropped it at the waist a little bit higher. But other than that, I think it's a superb image.
thank you, Bob. In the animal category, we have Twilight Hunter. Twilight Hunter.
Score of 88.
88. Ralph.
I really like the drama that this photograph conveys, and setting the setting the bird against a total black background, I think is really really powerful. The position of the bird is, and it's really intriguing. All the lines that are in there, in the feathers, the lines around the circle, the curved lines around the eyes. It's just very, very strong, very powerful. I did it in 88.
Thank you, Ralph. In the Twilight category, we have Route 66 at dusk. Route 66 at dusk. Or if you're from Ohio, it's Route 66.
Score of 88.
Another 88. Nancy,
I scored this a 90, and I think it's stunning in so many ways. The capture of the colors, the suggestion that we are back in the 50s or the 60s is so strong here, including that car near the sign. Beautiful exposure, great late, well, early evening, I should say, twilight time. There are so many good things. I'm trying to say, to think what is good. You know, the only thing here that suggests that there's any wind is the palm tree over on the left, and yet that's been de-emphasized because it is, not sharp, and that appears to be certainly maybe processing intentional on the part of the maker. But this one just I had a very strong positive response to this.
thank you, Nancy. The next image is in the open miscellaneous category, purple and gold. Purple and gold.
Score of 83.
83, Bob.
I scored this an 83. It's a good, strong image. I wish that the stem had come up from the center. Angling it like that would have helped my score quite a bit, but has a nice depth of field. The focus is strong. The colors are very strong. And again, I scored it an 83. Good image.
The next image is in the people category. Walter Wood, Indiana, 1972. Walter Wood, Indiana, 1972.
Score of 89.
89. Ralph.
When I see portraits, I think of Imogen Cunningham's portraits that are where you see the soul of the person, where she captures that. And I see the soul of this gentleman in this photograph. It's so strong, so powerful, and you know the person. You know the person, and that's such a difficult thing to capture in a portrait. It requires just capturing a fleeting moment very often, and this is just great. So I gave it a 90.
Thank you, Ralph. In the places category, Spring Thaw, Cedar Breaks National Monument. Spring Thaw, Cedar Breaks National Monument.
Score of 84.
84, Nancy.
My score was 83. There are so many things about this that I think are stunning. The atmospheric effect, the exposure all over is just excellent. The capture of the colors and the contrast. However, I wish that the maker had used a narrower focal length, because in using that wide focal length, the area at the bottom of the photo has been exaggerated, and that makes it compete with all of the beautiful detail and color and atmosphere at the top of the photo. So I'd like to have seen a narrower focal length, but overall, quite a lovely photo.
Thank you, Nancy. The next image is in the close-up category. Rose. Rose.
Score of 81.
81, Bob.
I scored this an 80. I wanted to score it higher, but the one thing that kept me from taking it up to an 83 or 84 was the fact that some of the petals were cut off from the image. It would have been a simple matter of either zooming back or stepping back a little bit. The depth of field on it is good. The focus point, what's supposed to be in focus is in focus. But the fact that the petals were cut off just kept me
Thank you, Bob.
added added to it for me.
Okay. Thank you, Bob. The next image is in the people category. Homeless Study 1. Homeless Study 1. Yeah.
Score of 86.
86, Ralph.
Well, this is like the last portrait for me. It just, you know who the person is, you know what he's like. And that so many portraits are just stiff and posed and awkward, and this is so natural. And the background's wonderful. The kind of the cocky look in his eyes and the smile on his face just tells you just know this person. And for me, that's what a portrait is all about. So I gave it a 90.
Okay, this should be our halfway point. We'll take a 5-minute break. It looks like it's just now 7:30, so at 7:35, we'll be ready to start again.
Actually, it's 8:35, just to correct you.
Depends where you are.
In Pacific Standard Time or Daylight Time.
Oh, Pacific Standard. What's the
Colorado
big about
time,
that?
it's 8:35. That's right.
Yeah, Rocky Mountain time. That's really good time.
Well, we're just getting twilight here, so
Yeah, it's gotten dark here. No lightning though. Gosh, the other night, the lightning was nonstop for a good half hour, 40 minutes.
Hmm.
When the lightning is nonstop, the thunder is nonstop. It's pretty exciting.
Did you get
Where are
in?
you located at, Ralph?
You know what?
Where are you located at?
We're about an hour north of Denver in a town called Windsor near Fort Collins.
Oh, okay.
Is that where the college is?
Fort Collins is Colorado State. That's where my daughter graduated from. And she lives in Fort Collins now. So as soon as my wife retired from AAA, we were packing. And now we live about 15, 20 minutes from her.
You and a lot of other people from California.
Yes, and when I introduced myself and they said, where are you from? I said, California, please don't hold that against me.
A lot of folks from around here go to Idaho or, well, Texas, Tennessee.
We have a house that across the street is this large pond that's almost as big as a lake. And during during the fall, there's a migration of Canada geese. And sometimes I swear there are 1,000 geese in that lake, in that pond. It is just incredible. We do have a little goose family that's running around with the mother, the daughter, and 4 chicks. Now, they were here last year with only 3 chicks. But looking out our living room window, what we see is this beautiful, beautiful pond with this beautiful sunrises, and I even got a picture of a sunset yesterday with the light, with the color in the east. That was cool.
Do you have hummingbirds?
No, we don't have hummingbirds. In our backyard, though, we do have rabbits that are eating the grass and squirrels that like to climb on the roof.
Hmm. Sounds beautiful.
It is beautiful. And the families here, every day you're going to see families out, husband, wife, and their kids out walking, enjoying it. It's really a family-oriented place too.
Hmm.
And the kids are really cute.
Dorothy, are you fond of hummingbirds?
We don't have too many hummingbirds here, but I see them a little bit in the summer.
Well, I'm up here in the hills in Riverside and I have hummingbirds year round, but I planted for them.
Oh, that's wonderful. Gosh, I miss that.
Well, I planted what I call a Southern California English garden. So it's all of the native plants here that bloom and are beautiful. And I don't have a swimming pool. I'm very unusual. But I planted for hummingbirds and bees and butterflies. And I'm doing very well on the hummingbirds and bees, but I need to put in more butterfly plants.
Yeah. We have a tree in Tennessee. It's called a chase tree. And it has a beautiful purple flower, and it attracts butterflies. And if there are any hummingbirds around, they will come. But and also we've been planting Mexican sunflowers, and they're about to bloom. That should bring butterflies too.
Oh, I'm not familiar with those.
Yeah, yeah.
Nancy, which mountain community do you live in?
Woodcrest.
I'm sorry.
Woodcrest.
Oh, okay.
I'm on the east side of Riverside, just about 20 minutes uphill.
Okay. Because I was up in Forest Falls area yesterday, and there were tons and tons of the big western swallowtail butterflies flying.
Oh, I would
figured they must be-
love to get them.
Must be migrating through or something, because I probably saw 20 or 30 of them.
No,
Yeah.
mostly I get monarchs.
Yeah.
but wow, how lovely.
Yeah, that's great. They wouldn't sit still for my camera though.
Oh, yeah.
They were just patrolling the hillsides.
They love citrus trees,
Yeah.
swallowtails.
Well, we need to get the word out to, I've got plenty of citrus trees. Hey, guys, come on over here.
Well, you're not far from me, Nancy. I'm over off of Mission Grove and Alessandro. If you're over
Oh,
in
yeah,
Woodcrest,
they're
yeah.
nearby.
Yep. I'm right across the canyon, where they overlook some, what is that? Emil, the park. They made it into a park because the kangaroo rat lives over there.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay, well, it sounds like we got our judges back. Bob, are you back?
I am here.
Okay, and I know we got Judith. I heard her.
Yep.
I would love to see those swallowtails. That must have been spectacular. We will now move on. The next image is in the twilight category. It's Isola di Tropea. And that's as good as my Italian gets. Isola di Tropea.
Okay.
Score of 82.
82, Nancy.
My score was 82, and I'm enjoying the use of the clouds in this. I'm enjoying the overall very good exposure. I have one problem with it, and that's that horizon right through the dead center of the photograph. And I'd like to see a decision here. Does the maker want to emphasize the clouds over the castle, the house, whatever, or does it want to emphasize the relationship of all the trees and that? And so I would like to see probably bottom quarter, bottom third cropped off of this image so that we would have that wonderful statement of the atmosphere, the clouds, the colors, and the house.
Thank you, Nancy. The next image is in the people category. Into the sunset. Into the sunset.
Score of 80.
80 goes to Bob.
I scored this an 82. I think the maker had a great idea here. A couple of things that kept me from wanting to score it higher was the fact that the shadows on the right, the two shadows there are cropped out. I wish that the entire shadows had been left in. The composition, I think, is good, except for the horizon, like Nancy said in the last image, is pretty much dead center. Either most of the shadows should have been cropped out and the horizon lowered, or more of the sky and more of the shadows and move the horizon up a little bit higher. But overall, I like the image. It just needs a little bit more tweaking to make it a higher score.
Hey, thank you, Bob. In the open miscellaneous category, Owens Lake Bird Festival. Owens Lake Bird Festival.
Score of 86.
86 goes to Ralph.
Yes, I gave it an 84. The subject matter is interesting with so many birds. I like the fact that a very important moment was come, and that was in the background the birds taking flight as opposed to the foreground the birds still wandering in the water. Love the contrast. Love the sharpness of the image. Um, and so I gave it an 84.
Thank you, Ralph. The next image is in the close-up category. Bel Air Beauty. Bel Air Beauty.
Score of 84.
84, Nancy.
Excuse me just a moment. Yeah, there we go. My score on this was an 80, and the reason that it wasn't higher than this is I look at this and what I see is a very technical image. We've got this beautiful balance, we've got some good exposure, but I'm not seeing a lot of creativity. It's also a very, very tight crop. You have to be told what you're looking at least for those of us non-car people. You have to be told what you're looking at before you know what you're looking at. So no problem there. I would love it if there was, say, some identifiable reflection in the chrome or something to add a little extra interest to it. That's me.
Thank you, Nancy. The next image is in the people category. Dancing Warriors. Dancing Warrior, single. Dancing Warrior.
Mhm. Mhm. Oh.
Score of 85.
85. Bob.
I scored this an 83. When I initially saw it, I thought, wow, somebody did a terrific job in panning. And then I realized that his feet weren't on the ground. So somebody actually did do a terrific job of cutting it out with all the fine detail in it. But what kept me scoring it higher, I really struggled in not scoring it much higher because it looks like he's just floating in thin air somewhere. And unless, he's a Indian shaman, that doesn't happen. So I think with a little bit of work in the ground, in the footage.
Okay, thank you, Bob.
Let me make a comment because I saw the same thing that Bob saw, as if he was floating in the air, and I thought that was an asset to the photograph. And so I gave it a 90. And that's wonderful how we have different ways of seeing it. But I thought the floating in midair and the blur behind and all the colors was really magical.
Thank you, Ralph.
It's not a challenge, by the way.
That's a
It's not.
challenge or not a
No,
challenge?
that's not a challenge, by the way. I just wanted to give another perspective on this.
Thank you. The next image is in the places category. Umbrella Alley, Redlands. Umbrella Alley, Redlands.
Score of 84.
84, Ralph.
Okay, so I'm at the other end of this one. I've sorted it. I scored it an 80. I'm just a little bit overcome by the intensity of the colors, the saturation of the colors. Composition is good, but my eye wanders around and doesn't really focus on anything except there's a hot spot right in the lower center with a lot of visual weight to it that draws my attention. But my own personal taste is this level of saturation is just a little bit too much for me. So I give it an 80. Otherwise, it's a beautiful photograph.
Thank you, Ralph. In the twilight category, somebody is home. Somebody is home.
Score of 84.
84. Thank you, Nancy.
This is a lovely balance between ambient light and the color it adds to the wood facing of the house, and the artificial light, which gives us those yellow tones. I wish that maybe the photographer had backed up just a little bit and taken a 2 or 3 steps to the right, because although I like the framing of the trees, over on the left-hand side, there's a lot of incursion by the branch of that one tree. So I'd like to see less of that. And also personally, I would like to see just a little bit more height on the house, because I get the feeling that that dome and point is piercing into the sky. So I'd like to see just a little bit more room there. But overall, a lovely photograph.
Thank you, Nancy. In the open miscellaneous category, Island Lake. Island Lake.
Score of 82.
82, Bob.
I scored this a 78. As a black and white, a couple of things kept me from scoring it higher. The fact that the trees and the rocks need to have more separation from the milky looking water. It could have a lot more contrast to it. And the fact that it's dead center, top to bottom, left to right, it should be off to the right, I think. Maybe move it a fourth of the way over to the right, it would balance a lot better. So if you just cropped a little bit off the bottom, a little bit off the right side, bring the contrast up, I think this thing could easily go 82, 83, somewhere there.
Thank you, Bob. The next image is in the people category. Dancing. Dancing.
Score of 78.
78, Ralph.
Well, I give this one an 82. It's a great moment at a powwow. What's difficult about capturing a dance like this, though, is getting separation amongst the dancers. It's also the camera's a little bit tilted, so um, so it looks like it's flowing downhill to the left. I really like powwows though, and so I give it an 82.
Okay, the next image is in the places category. Flowing water. Flowing water.
Score of 78.
78, Nancy.
I scored this 78. I'd like to see, first of all, congratulations to the maker who's aware of shutter speed and trying to do something really interesting with the shutter speed to represent the water. I would like to see some work done to create a shallower depth of field to separate the fountain from the background. I'd like to see a little playing around with the exposure because I'm seeing too many overexposed spots, but a lot of that has to do with an exposure that's long enough to allow that to happen. So I do think it is a nice try. So 78.
Thank you, Nancy. In the places category, ancient bristlecone tree. Ancient bristlecone tree.
Score of 80.
80, Bob.
I scored this a 78. Two things that kept me from scoring higher. One is the depth of field on the flowers. They are all out of focus entirely. And the other is photography is all about the light. And the subject is 95% in the shadow. If it had been photographed at a different time of day, you would have seen the texture, the twisting, the detail. It's a nice try if you had just either photographed it earlier or later, so that the subject was mostly in the light. A little bit of shadow is nice, but not that much. So I scored it a 78.
Thank you, Bob. In the animal category, white pelican. White pelican.
Score of 86.
86, Ralph.
Well, I scored a 91, and I love it because it's black and white. Oh, there's so many things to like about it. Black and white, the reflection on the ripples, the motion that gives it, the pelican coming into the frame, all the ripples in the sky and the little reflections of trees on the far bank, those dark lines. There's just so much going on here that I had to give it a 91.
I would like to challenge this one.
Sure.
I think that the only thing that kept me from scoring it higher, I scored it a 90. And the only thing that kept me from going into a 92 or 93 was the fact that it tilts slightly to the right. maybe 1.5 degrees is all. But the composition is strong. The reflection is excellent. It doesn't have to be a smooth composite or a reflection for it to be great. I think the reflection really shows the ripples in the water, and that the fact that it is moving towards the front to the right, and there's plenty of space in there for it to move into. I think the overall score should be much higher than that.
Okay, Nancy, do you have a comment?
I do. I'm seeing blur, particularly on the head and beak and neck of the pelican, and I'm wondering if this isn't one, either low resolution, or two, just a slightly too slow shutter speed. And I had a serious problem with that. And I do agree with the tilt. That bothered me quite a bit.
Okay, let's see, Bob, do you have a rebuttal?
No,
Okay, judges, could you please rescore?
yet
Score of 88.
88. Thank you. In the people category, we have Bombay Drive-In. And I suspect that this may be an error in the category. It is more likely in the places category, but some people get fat fingers when they enter things in the computer, so I will take responsibility for that. But it's Bombay Drive-In.
Score of 83.
83, Nancy.
I love the point of view on this. I am a little disappointed by the lower right-hand corner having fallen out of the plane of focus so seriously. And I think that we could, crop from the right a little bit and still maintain the intent of the photograph. And that would make it a little better. But overall, what a great point of view. And except for that lower right-hand side, what great exposure, especially on that torn up seat.
Thank you,
can I
Nancy.
challenge it
You have a challenge?
again, Carl? Can I challenge it again?
Go ahead, Bob. Go ahead, Bob.
Or at all? I agree with what Nancy said, that the dashboard could use a little bit greater depth of field. That could be cropped, but I think the composition of this, the fact that you're looking through the window, the steering wheel location, the fact that the seat is in focus, the Bombay Drive-In sign is nicely framed in the image. The roof could have been cropped a little bit tighter possibly, but I think it deserves a little bit higher score than what we gave it overall.
Okay, let's see, Ralph, do you have a comment?
No.
No further comment, Nancy?
No, I'm good.
Okay, judges, please rescore.
Score of 85.
85. Thank you very much. In the places category, we have Singapore Flyer. Singapore Flyer.
Score of 81.
81. This one goes to Bob.
I scored this an 80. I like it. It is a good image. It balances well. The red boat in the water balances with the truck on the road that's hauling lumber, it looks like. The tall building on the left balances well with the skyscrapers in the center right. I think it could use a little more contrast, and I think the clouds could have been brought down a little bit, would make it a higher scoring image.
Okay, thank you, Bob. In the animal category, sunflower feeder. Sunflower feeder.
Score of 91.
91.
Correct, 91.
Ralph.
92. That's what I scored it. You look at that thing, there's this photograph, and starting with the background, it's just a wonderful background. And then you look at the details on the foliage, the flower on the bottom, the little fibers on the twigs above the bird's head, the flow of the energy, the visual tension in this image, even though it's centered in the frame, which is kind of a static position, it still has a lot of motion, that stem coming in from the upper right, and then the bird just looking at you, and the eyes are in focus. It's a really great pose for the bird. So I gave that a 92.
Thank you, Ralph. Uh, in the people category, we have joy. Joy.
Score of 87.
87, Nancy.
I scored this an 83. The finest part about this group of photos is the facial expressions, and the exposures on the on the face are marvelous. I wish that the hand and the one on over the left hand side it's a little bit blurry, and I have a bit of a problem with that. But overall, this is a joyous kind of a thing. I would love to get a hold of this and play with the post-processing exposures and see if I couldn't reduce some of the highlights a little bit. But that's my personal approach to grayscale images. So congratulations to the maker.
I'd like to re-enter mine because I did a typo. So could we re-enter our scores?
Okay, you had an error when you put it in.
Yeah, I had a typo, fat finger error.
Okay. Okay, judges, please re-enter your original scores.
Okay, corrected.
It's still an 87, Bruce?
Yeah, brings it to 83.
83 now?
Yeah.
Okay, the next one is in the twilight category, on Golden Pond at twilight. On Golden Pond at twilight.
Score of 83.
83, Bob.
I scored this an 83. I like the image. Two things that kept me from going to about an 87 range, 88. It's dead center on the horizon. It shouldn't be. And the fact that Mama Duck needs to have a little more room in front of her to move into. If the maker had simply zoomed the lens back or stepped back a little bit and raised the camera a bit so she wouldn't have been on that center line, I think it would have scored a lot higher. I love the capture, little ones coming behind her. It's just cropped a little too tight and dead center.
Thank you, Bob. The next image is in the people category. Vintage oarsman. Vintage oarsman.
Score of 85.
85, Ralph.
Yeah, it's a well-posed photograph, portrait. It's what I was talking about earlier, in that sometimes they're overposed, and I think this is a little overposed. The subject's eyes are clear, his face is clear, and it's still a great photograph. So I gave it a 84.
Okay, thank you, Ralph. In the places category, a view from the park. A view from the park.
Score of 85.
85, Nancy.
I scored this an 85, and this is benefiting from having been shot down below and up at the buildings, which gives the building a greater sense of importance and power, which is very nice. Combine that with this terrific cloud in the background, you get a great atmospheric effect, and overall a very good exposure. So quite a nice photograph.
Thank you, Nancy. In the people category, Renaissance musician. Renaissance musician.
Carl, you gonna push the button?
Yeah, I guess I am. There it is. How about that? That's more like a Renaissance musician.
Score of 85.
85, Bob.
I scored this an 85. I wanted to score it higher. I really like the image. Two things that kept me from scoring it higher. The fact that on the right, the elbow and part of the arm and all that is cut off. The fact that it's cropped a little too tight. I love the lighting on the face. And the other thing is that the bow and the top of the fiddle or violin cuts right into his face. And I wish it had been leaned to the right, his left, a bit more. So it was more towards his shoulder and hadn't cut into his face so much. If that had been that way, I would have had no problem scoring this a 90.
Thank you. The next image is in the animal category. Osprey at Bolsa Chica with breakfast takeout. Osprey at Bolsa Chica with breakfast takeout.
Ralph?
Score of 82.
82, Ralph.
That's what I scored at 82. This is really a difficult photograph to capture because you get one shot. And it kind of reminds me of the bald eagles that are hanging around the pond across our house when it's full of Canada geese. And I've seen one of them flying off with a goose. But so it brings back memories. I really like the way the wings are spread out. I have a hard time with the fact that I really can't make out the bird's head and face very well. But it's still, like I said, you get one shot, and this is really a dramatic photograph.
May I add a comment?
Sure.
Alrighty. I think that the position in which this bird was captured is absolutely stunning. I'm jealous. And the only problem I have with it is that I think that it has been seriously cropped. I think that the bird was lost in the sky and all the sky had to be cropped away. And as a result, we end up with a soft image.
Yeah.
So I'm with
Yeah.
Ralph.
Yeah.
I just wanted to suggest a cause for it.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Nancy and Ralph. The next image is in the close-up category. And I am not a botanist, but it's Cleistocactus. Cleisto cactus.
Score of 84.
84, Nancy.
I scored this 85, and I would not believe these colors, but I've had this grow at my house. It really is iridescent and almost too much to believe. Absolutely beautiful capture of the depth of field, because we got the petals and the stamen very sharp, and we can really appreciate it. And the jump to the shallow depth of field to blur out the background is just amazingly perfect. So I think that this deserves every one of those 85 points.
Thank you, Nancy. Did I pronounce it correctly?
I have no idea.
Well, it's a cleistocactus and it gets an 84. And the next image is in the open miscellaneous category. Lavender and rust. Lavender and rust.
Score of 84.
84, Bob.
I scored this an 82. I like the overall image. I wish there had been a little more room on the right side. And the only reason I could see to crop it that tight is the fact that there wasn't any more lavender on the right or the left. But those wheels typically, when they're harvesting, would roll to the right, and it would have been nice to see a little more room in that direction. I love the colors, great depth of field, good subject. It just needed a little more room around it.
Thank you, Bob. The next image is another botanist question. Epiphyllum orchid. Epiphyllum orchid.
Score of 80.
80, Ralph.
I gave it a 78. Certainly a lot of action in this photograph with the but I found the background, part of it's really sharp, part of it's out of focus, a good out of focus. The flower itself, I like the way it's posed, kind of at an angle. So I gave it a 78.
Okay, thank you, Ralph. And thank you to everybody who entered. Bruce, if you would confirm, we do have a best of show.
We do.
We have a best of show, and if you haven't been keeping records, you'll have to wait till the 1st of July when we have our awards program in person at the church.
And Russ, are you still on?
Russ,
I see you, Russ. I can't hear him.
no.
Nope. Well, a special thanks to our judges, Bob, Nancy, and Ralph. Appreciate your time and your expertise. It's always, fun to, see your scores and kind of compare them to, try to guess the judge, guess the average. And I'm getting closer. So I think that's a good thing, just in terms of that discerning eye. And of course, my own images never score like I want them to. So if you're in the same boat, don't feel bad. But much appreciated. Our next meeting is in person, and it's a bring your camera to camera club. It's going to be invertebrate photography, a lot of opportunity for macro photography. So bring a long lens and prepare to get an award and have some fun. So look out for the photogram in our next meeting.
I must apologize for freezing up there for a moment, but I guess if I was president of the United States, I could do it.
We really don't need those kind of comments. Let's leave it to Fox News.
Oh my gosh. Well, thank you very much. I enjoyed seeing everybody.
Yeah.
And